Hello students. So students, in the previous class in this chapter, that is living things and their surrounding, we were talking about that of the different characteristic of that of the living things. Okay, so you see students, we have studied till now about the expression, and in the previous class we were talking about the reproduction also. So you see that if we talk about the reproduction, so there are a different mode of a reproduction shown by the different types of organism. Like we have find that if we consider it in the animals, then human beings are there, cats are there, student dogs are there, and other animals, they used to give birth to their young ones. So here, giving birth to the young one is a one mode of a reproduction shown by the organism. And there are birds also, there are reptiles also, like you see lizard is there, or the birds are there. They used to they used to produce they used to lay eggs. Now this egg will be hatched by them when the temperature is whenever they get mature. So they used to provide the temperature to that of the egg, and due to which they becomes the adult. They becomes from the egg when they mature, they used to hatch it and come outside. So here also, and you will find in the first case also where the organism used to give birth to their young ones. In both the cases you will find that here addition of a new member or giving birth to a new member, and this new member is always of its species. It means if it is a dog, so dog will give birth to a dog only. If it is a human being give birth to a human being itself. Okay. Sorry. And by this, students, we can say that every living organism which used to give birth, they always give birth to their own type of species. Okay, so addition of a new member of one type of its own type of a species, that is known as a reproduction. Now this one we have seen in case of the animals. If we talk about the plants, students, so plants, generally these plants are they shows the three types of we can say they also show the different mode of reproduction. First one, if you see that most of the plant, they used to grow through seeds, through the seed of the plant. Okay, so we used to sow the seed, and this seed will get all the kind of nourishment, and even we used to add manures, we used to add fertilizers so that they will get the nutrient. Okay, we used to provide water to it so that the moisture will be there. So we used to sow it in the soil, and from the soil it will absorb all the different kind of necessary things which is important for it to grow, which is important for it to develop into a new tree or into a new plant. So most of the plant, they used to grow through that of the seed of the plant. Now, if we talk that is it compulsory that every part is grown through that of the seed, or every plant can grow only through seeds? No. There are some of the plants, not many, but some of the plants are there which used to grow through the tubers. What is a tuber? Tuber is actually the swollen part which is present at the base, and it is swollen because it stored food in it. So it's a kind of a stem which consisting of a food in it, that is known as a tuber. An example, if we talk, students, so potato is a very good example. Potato is what? It is a stem tuber. Okay, so here potato used to store food in it. Okay, and here one thing is there, you will find that okay, it consisting of a tuber. Now how the growth happen in case of a potato? So potato, they are having small buds. You have listened about the eye of the potato. Actually that is the bud portion. So, and this bud is not only present means one bud is not only present in a potato, but more than one buds are present in the potato. Okay, so if we are using a potato which is consisting of a bud and sow it in the ground, in the soil, then you will find that with the help of this bud, the root and the shoot came out. It means after a few days, you will find that the potato will grow and develop into a new plant. So it is not necessary, student, that you have to take one potato and for the growth of another one. You can cut it into pieces, but remember that every piece must consisting of a bud. Okay, so if a piece of a potato consisting of a bud, even though it is coming from the single potato which has been cut into that of the 4 pieces, and all the 4 pieces consisting of a bud. Now from one potato, if you are cutting it into 4, so you will get the 4 potatoes. So by this we can say that a single piece of a potato which consisting of buds in it, when you will sow it in the ground, in the soil, they will grow and develop into a new plant. So here we can say that with the help of a tuber also the plant can grow. Okay, so seeds are there, tuber is there, both of them are responsible for the growth of the plant. Now there are plants, students, which used to grow through the cutting also. Cutting means from any piece of the part of the plant. So here, if a piece of a plant or if a part of a plant is cut and then it can grow into a new plant. So but this happens again with very few plants only. Now basically what happened here, so we used to cut a part of a plant, but remember that this part of the plant also consisting of a bud. Okay, now when you will try to grow it in the soil, means the lower portion of that the cut part is in the soil, which consisting of the bud also. Now this will grow and develop into a new plant. So grapes are there, student, sugar cane is there, or rose are there. So these are, henna is there. So these are the different kind of a plant which can grow through the cutting. So reproduction in plant also are of a different mode. Now let us see then another characteristic of that of the living organism, and that is living organism or living thing are having definite lifespan. Okay, so all the living beings, all the living things, they give give birth, and then that kid will grow and develop into adult, and finally from adult becomes old and then die. So here the born means born of a child, then growing into a kid, from the kid to an adult to an old age, and finally death. Okay, so this is what it happens with every of the living organism, including the animals, including the plants. Okay, although lifespan vary. Okay, although there the lifespan is actually the period between that of the birth of a child to the death of a person, of the same person. Okay, so from the birth to the death, that is the lifespan of a living organism. So we can say that this period may vary from a person to person. Okay, from one individual to the other individual. Okay, now see here. So all the living things start their life all the living things start their life when they are born. When they are born. When they are born as babies, when they are born as babies or hatched from eggs, or grow through seeds, or grow through seeds. Okay, so condition can be anything, student. Giving birth to a baby, so born as a baby, or egg also which get hatched, so hatched from the egg, or even from that of the seeds. Okay. These all living organisms, they used to grow, they used to develop into an adult living thing. Okay. So, these living things grow into an adult, remain alive for certain time, and finally die. Okay, so these living organisms, they used to grow into an adult, and even then they remain alive for a certain interval of a time, and finally they die. So this thing happen with each and every living thing. Okay, whether the living thing born as a baby, or it is hatched from the egg, or it comes through that of the seeds. But the difference here is what? That duration of the time. Okay, so they remain alive for a certain interval of a time. So that duration may vary from the living organism, from one living organism to that of the other one. So we can write it. That is, different kind of a living things different kinds of living things, they remain alive for different duration of time. Okay, for different duration of time, and the time period, this time period for which living things alive, okay, alive, is called its lifespan. Okay, that is called its lifespan. Now, if we talk that every living organism, they are having a definite lifespan. If suppose we will talk about that of a man, so the average lifespan of a man is 60 to 80 years. Although it varies, where some of them may have a very less lifespan, and some of them may have more lifespan. It means they can be of 100 or more. Okay, but this happen in a rare case. But the average, if we talk, okay, which is mostly happen with the human being in most of the cases, that is 60 to 80 years. So we can write it. All the living organisms are having definite lifespan. Okay, all the living organisms, they are having definite lifespan. And if you talk about the man, so man has about an average life span of 60 to 70 years. 60 to 70 years. Okay. Now, we are talking about that of the man. If we talk about the insects, so insects are having very less lifespan. Okay. So we can say that even you see that the insect that we used to see during the rainy days, that means after rain occurs, so that kind of an insect can remain alive for few hours. So their lifespan is only for few hours, not even for a day or for a year. Okay, so we can write it that insects seen during the rainy season are having the lifespan of few hours. Okay, they are having the lifespan of few hours. And if we talk about other living organisms, so you see, student, tortoise is having, means their lifespan is very big, so they can remain alive for more than 100 years. Okay, so we can write it, that is the lifespan of tortoise is more than 100 years. Okay, it is more than 100 years. So this was about the lifespan, students. So we have seen here that all the living organisms, they are having the different lifespan. Now we have talked here, students, that the living organism which are having the shortest lifespan, it means they can only remain alive for few hours. So such kind of a lifespan, we will consider them is what it is a very shortest lifespan. And if we talk about the lifespan of the living organism, like that of the tortoise, so their lifespan is very much, means very the lifespan is very big, in which they can remain alive for more than 100 years. Although there are who can live for 10 years, for 5 years, for 6 years, even for a few days also. Okay, so this was about that, how we can say that what do we understand by the lifespan, and what is related with the characteristic of the living thing. So every living organism, they are having their different lifespan. Even if you look at the trees also, students, all the plants, they are also having a definite lifespan. But what about the non-living thing? Does non-living thing are having a kind of a definite lifespan? No, they can remain if you have kept it properly, they can remain there for more than 100 years or 20 years or for 10 minutes. You never know. Okay, so it is not like that they are having a definite lifespan. Okay, so this was about that of the characteristic of the living thing. Let me remind you all the characteristic of the living and the non-living thing by differentiating between the characteristic from each other. So, living things and here non-living things. Living things and non-living things. So the first point that we can write about that of the living things, that is, living things, they need food, they need water. Okay, so we can write it. These living things, they need food, air and water. So it is very important. If they will not get food, if they will not get air and that of water, they will be not able to survive. What about in case of a non-living thing? In case of a non-living thing, there is no such kind of a condition. So we can say that they do not need air or food or a water for survival. So we can write it here. They do not need food, air and water. Okay, so for the survival of the non-living thing, it is not necessary that they need all these things. Second one is, and that is, the living things, they used to show the process of a growing. So they used to grow. Okay, if your small kid is there, he or she will grow into an adult. If a small animal is there, so that will also grow into an adult. If a plant is there, students, so the plant will also grow into a tree. So here we can say that the living thing used to show the growth. But what about if you have kept a box or a duster for a long period of a time? Is there any change in the size? No. So they will not show the process of growth here. So living things, they grow. But non-living things, they do not grow. Okay, so the living things, they used to grow, but non-living things, they do not grow. Now, when we talk about the movement, so the living things, they can move by themselves. Okay, but non-living things, they can move, but always the movement occur when an external force is applied on it. Okay, so when somebody is pushing it or pulling it, only then the living thing used to show the movement. Okay, but non-living thing show the movement. But in case of a living thing, this kind of a movement occur by its own. Okay, so the living things, they can show the movement by their own, but the non-living thing need an external force so that they can able to move their body easily. Okay, so we can write it. They can move on their own. Okay, but they cannot move on their own. Okay, so they cannot move on their own. So living things, they need food, air, they can move on their own, but the non-living things, they cannot move. Now let us see the next characteristic. that is fourth one. And here we can say that the living thing, they used to respond to the stimuli. So in the case of a stimuli student, we have seen that if an external thing happen, our body always, external change happen, you can say, our body always react to that. Okay, so we used to respond to the stimulus. Stimuli is what? It is a kind of a change which occur our surrounding. Okay, so we can write it, living things response to the stimuli. Okay, they response to the stimuli. What happened in case of a non-living thing? So I had taken a marker. If suppose I will gaze or I will use my hand to show it for slapping and all, it will not going to react. It will not going to show any kind of a response. If suppose I will take it to the sunlight, it will not going to show any kind of a response. So obviously this response can be shown only through the living thing. It is not necessary that the animals, but even you see the plants also show the movement towards the sunlight, or even movement away from the sunlight by going deep inside to that of the soil or by absorbing the water. So all these things are what we can say a response to the stimuli. Even if you touch a mimosa plant, it used to close, fold its leaves. So this is a kind of a response shown by the plants. Okay, so living things responds to the stimuli, but non-living things do not respond to the stimuli. Okay, so they do not respond to the stimuli. Next one is students, that is living things. They show the process, that is the respiration, because they need energy, and for gaining energy, you know that it is the respiration process which help in providing the energy. Okay, but non-living things, they show the respiration process? No, they do not respire. So we can say that it is the living thing which used to take oxygen and then releases carbon dioxide, and which help in breakdown of the food and giving energy to them. The same thing happened with the plants also. So that it is the living thing which shows the process, and that is known as respiration. So we can write it, that is living things respire. Non-living things do not show respiration. Okay, it do not show respiration. Then we have seen that the living things, they used to excrete. Okay, they used to remove their waste material. But non-living thing, there is no such kind of excretion process occur in that of the non-living thing. So we can say that the living thing excrete, but non-living things, they do not excrete. Okay, so they excrete. Non-living things, they do not. They do not excrete. Now, living things, right now we had discussed that living things, they used to show the process of a reproduction, and due to which they used to give birth to a new member. But non-living thing, have you seen it? No, absolutely not. So non-living thing, they do not show the process of a reproduction. So we can write it that living things, they used to reproduce, but the non-living things, they do not reproduce. We can write it living This one, they do not reproduce. And finally, one shows the definite lifespan and another they do not have a definite lifespan. So we can write it. Have definite lifespan they do not have definite lifespan. So this was about that of the living things and their characteristics.